Welcome back to today's video. We're going to be discussing my favorite drugstore palettes. These are palettes that I have in my collection already, palettes that I've been going to, and palettes that I've really been enjoying that I use on a pretty consistent basis. The one thing I like about these palettes is that they are all really great quality and they all have something really great and special to them. So we're going to go ahead and get diving right into it. But before we do that, make sure to subscribe if you guys are new to my channel. And those of you guys who are already subscribed, I appreciate you guys coming back. I just wanted to reiterate to you guys, I just put myself on a schedule. So now I'm uploading on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, typically at 6 p.m. at night. So make sure to tune in on those days. Otherwise, let's go ahead and get diving into it and let's talk about some awesome palettes. The first palette I have is actually a palette that I think I kind of forgot about. I think what had happened was that it's just one of those smaller palettes and sometimes tend to get pushed to the back. And when I had moved from place to place, I'd seen it and I swatched it and I was like, wow, this is actually really good. Why didn't I play around with this more so? So I decided to put it in my everyday makeup drawer and it's been hanging out with me there and I've really been enjoying it, especially on my off days because it's a really easy palette to work with. It is the CATRICE Cosmetics Essential Nude Eyeshadow Palette. The palette has a total of 10 shadows. I do believe it retails for around $8 depending on where you go. The one thing I liked about the palette the most is just that it's easy. It's simple. There's really no looking at the palette without wondering, what do I do with this? How do I use it? What am I supposed to create with this? It's perfect for anybody that is really simple, somebody that doesn't want a lot of color, or you just want to pick it up and you want to know that the look that you're going to create is going to be an easy everyday look. The colors are really pretty. They're really soft. They're very feminine. The other thing about the darker shadows is that they do take a little bit of time to build, but if you don't want a color to be super pigmented, I feel like this is going to be a great palette for you because you're going to be able to build up the colors. It's not going to come off as pigmented as maybe some other shadows will, but you can definitely build up the palette. Wet n Wild has always been the one brand that I've always recommended any of my friends or family members to jump into if they're beginning at makeup. If a friend of mine says, I really want eyeshadows, but I don't know what I want to get, or hey, I'm doing this look and what eyeshadow would you recommend? I always ask them to go to Wet n Wild because they have such great quality for the eyeshadows and just a lot of other products in their line are really great also. The one palette that I really fell in love with and I wanted to share with you guys is the Wet n Wild Au Naturel palette, and this here is in the style Nude Awakening. This palette here does retail for somewhere around $10 and you do get a nice combination of 5 mattes and you will get 5 shimmers. When I saw this, I immediately thought of the Modern Renaissance. I know that there's probably some of you guys may say, it's just because of that cranberry shade. I don't know. There's something around this that every time I see it, it just reminds me of the Modern Renaissance. And so whenever I think of a good alternative dupe, I always think of this. I don't know. Do you guys see it? Maybe it's just me, but I kind of see it. The mattes are really great. They pack on really quickly and they are really easy to work with. The shimmer shadows in this palette are good also, but I do find that sometimes they aren't as opaque as some of the other Wet n Wild shadows that I've played with. I do recommend of going in with some sort of a spray or some sort of a wet brush to really pack a punch with those metallic shades. The only thing I will say is that sometimes I find that these shadows don't last as long as some other shadows that I have in my collections, but I think as long as you use some sort of concealer or primer base, you should be okay. Since we are on the subject of Wet n Wild, I'll go ahead and finish off with the next one I wanted to mention is the eyeshadow palette, which is in the style Rosé in the Air. And some of you guys might say that's a little bit more like Modern Renaissance. Again, it's got those warmer tone colors, those very cherry, cranberry, that kind of a style. And this one predominantly, if you like matte shades, I really think you're going to like this palette more so. This palette has a total of 10 shades in it. 2 of them are shimmer shadows and the rest of them are mattes. This is really great for those of you guys who really don't care for a lot of shimmer shadows in your palettes. I really don't have anything bad to say about this palette. I really do love it. The only problem I've ever had with this palette would be this one right here, which is probably like everybody looks at it and you're like, oh, that's so beautiful. It is the most dry shadow in the palette. So this is one shadow that I typically never pack on the lid or I never use as like a crease color. I usually like to just use this one as a transition shade, but I would say for the price, I think this retails for around $5. If you like everything else about this palette but that one shade, it's still going to be a great buy. Speaking of awesome drugstore products, if you guys haven't tried this one I'm wearing on my lips, it's my favorite. It is the Maybelline Vivid Hot Lacquer Lip Gloss, and this one's in the shade Charmer. Oh my I love it. The next palette I have is the NUDE palette. I actually just recently did a full swatch and review on this entire collection, but this here is the e.l.f. palette, which is their Modern Metals collection. If you guys haven't seen that video, I'll have it linked right here or in the description box, but I did a full on look with using this palette. I talked about it, I did swatches and everything, so I definitely would check that video out. I don't want to spend a lot of time with this, but this is another great palette. This is one of my newer finds, and I'm so excited to play around with this. It's got such amazing, fun colors, you guys. Like, I don't know. I loved that they divided the mattes like right here and then the shimmers right here. This palette retails for $10 and just really great quality. Again, you guys that did see my video, you guys saw just how amazing the quality was. Taking away from my video, if I had to mention anything about this palette, the blue was the only one that was a little bit disappointed with. It didn't pack that much of a punch, but overall, like, the look still came out great. I had an easy time working with it, and this one actually ended up coming off more of like a bluish gray, which isn't a bad thing. It actually looked really nice, so I really like this formula. It's a really great palette. I have quite a few e.l.f. palettes like this, but this by far has to be my favorite one that e.l.f. came out with so far. I know Profusion has been out for a little bit now, and I've talked about them. I actually recently just mentioned it in my monthly favorites, how much I liked their products. And for those of you guys, just a little sneak peek, I literally just did, before this video, this eye look using this new palette by them, which is their Chocolates palette. So that should be coming up here next after this video. But we're going to get talking into this palette right here, which is called the SIENNAS palette. This is the palette that I featured in my favorites video. And let me just tell you, if you love warm tone colors, you're gonna love this palette. You guys, this is like a warm tone lover's dream. Total of 21 shadows, $10. I believe all of their eyeshadow palettes are around $10, which is incredible. The shimmers in the Profusion palettes don't have my favorite formula to them, but they're still good. I think as long as you use some sort of a tacky base or a wet brush, you can really get some pigment and punch to the palette. I think my favorite part of this palette more so is the mattes though. You can find this brand at Target, like I said, or online, but I do know that right now they're having, with the holidays coming up, they have a lot of different like holiday collections probably going to be hitting the stores, so I would definitely look out for something like that. The last palettes I have here, I've mentioned in numerous videos when I talk about anything drugstore related, are the MILANI eyeshadow palettes. They have a few different ones from their collection. These here are the ones that I own. I have a cool tone brown one, I have like a warm tone brown, and then obviously I have a purple one. I do have a blue one somewhere around here. I don't know where it's at, but MILANI eyeshadow palettes are amazing. They are a little bit more on the pricier side. I find MILANI to be kind of like that in-between brand between like Maybelline and L'Oreal. Like, they're not as expensive as L'Oreal, but they're not as cheap as, or I shouldn't say cheap, they're not as affordable as Maybelline, but they're such great quality. MILANI has amazing selection. Almost every product that they throw out is amazing. It's bomb. And I think their eyeshadow palettes are some of my favorite palettes to work with. When these came out, you guys, I could not stop using them. I still can't stop using them. Whenever I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, I really want a really good highlight color, or maybe a palette I'm using doesn't have a really good highlight shade to them, I always dive into this palette. Like, any of these palettes always have amazing highlight shades to work with. Now, I do know that some of you guys are like, wow, you didn't mention the new palettes that they came out with, like their everyday essential palettes and stuff like that. It's not that I don't want to. It's not that I don't like them. I love them, but if you can find them, let me know, because I can't find them. I have been looking for them. I see them spotted on Instagram from people like screenshotting them saying they're here. I look, I just can't find them. So when I find them, I will dive into them, and I'll probably have to redo this entire video because I absolutely love MILANI shadows. These are anything like the everyday essential palettes or whatever other palettes that they have launching already. I'm sure I'm gonna love those too. So I hope you guys liked this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up if you guys enjoyed the products that I mentioned. I know there are a bunch of drugstore eyeshadow palettes out there, you guys. This is just the palettes that I had in my collection currently. I did not go out searching for palettes. I just looked at my collection, looked at what I liked, and thought I would share it with you guys. But I know that there's probably drugstore palettes out there that I didn't mention that are just as awesome. So if there is a palette that you guys think I should try, or maybe you guys, you know, would recommend to somebody else watching this video, go ahead and link them down below on what your favorite eyeshadow palettes are. And if you guys have any other video recommendations, anything drugstore related that you guys would like me to talk about, make sure to let me know also in the comments below. I love you guys. I will see you guys all in my next video, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.